Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another exciting edition of Transformers Reviews. Today we are looking at Combiner Wars Ultra Magnus. Now one thing you'll notice right off the bat is Ultra Magnus does come with this little character named Minimus Anubis. He's got a nice little Autobot symbol there, and he's a cool little car, but you know what, we're going to go ahead and we'll talk about him later in robot mode, because he's not all that important, and I really don't care for him. No, I'm just kidding. The one thing you will notice right off the bat is that he is based on the G1 Ultra Magnus. Okay, so one of the things that at first kind of prevented me from buying this Ultra Magnus was the fact, a couple of things. The cab, whenever I first looked at it, I personally thought it looked kind of like really kind of kiddie. But the longer I've had it, and the more I've looked at it, it actually looks basically like a more advanced futuristic kind of semi-truck, and I'm really kind of cool with that, you know, and I really do like that. Now the other thing that did kind of bug me was, unlike the G1 Magnus, this white cab does not turn into a robot. This is it. It combines with the trailer to form his robot mode, but it is not a white prime like a lot of Ultra Magnuses are, and it is secured in there by this. I mean, for transformation it slides back like that, but I mean, it is secured. You could unscrew that technically, but you're not going to get really a whole lot more out of this truck right here. But it does have wide range of motion, spin. So, but overall, I mean, it's a cool looking car carrier. I'm not going to deny that. But I do want to do some size comparisons. So first, we're going to go ahead and put Fall of Cybertron Optimus Prime, or Fall of Cybertron Ultra Magnus up here with him. And so let's go ahead and also add up here the Transformers Prime Voyager Ultra Magnus. You know what? Between these guys, it's I mean, I like the way they look together. I mean, essentially you have different iterations of the same guy here. Now the one thing about these two Ultra Magnus is, obviously they aren't white cabs, but the reason for that being is when you transform these guys into robot mode, they look like this Ultra Magnus does in his robot mode. They just don't have to have the white cab with them, which is okay. That makes them cool and unique in their own right off the bat. But anyway, one thing I did want to mention with Ultra Magnus before we go to robot mode is that, like the G1, he actually can carry figures from his line. So one of the things you'll have to do is come back here and untab these, and you also have to untab these. This one was already undone a little bit, but you just kind of, you know, push it down like the old one. Make sure it doesn't catch on these side pieces here. And you can, you know, you can see that if you have, let's just take, I just have the Stunticons on hand. You know, you can go ahead and put the Stunticons up here. And what's really interesting about it is, if you can get this thing just right, let's take a look at this here. You can still go ahead and put ones, like, let's take this one here. And you can at least have him carry 2. Obviously he can't carry 4 or anything like that. But you know what, that's cool that he's able to at least carry these figures from his line. If you guys know, the Stunticons have now been remolded into like Ironhide and Prowl and Sunstreaker and the ones like that. So if you want to have them carrying around Autobots, you know, you can go ahead and have, if you have those molds, you can go ahead and put them on here in place of, you know, where I have the Stunticons. But other than that, overall, I love Ultra Magnus's vehicle mode. Get that guy out of here. Anyway, let's go ahead and get him onto robot mode. Okay, so here we have Ultra Magnus in his robot mode, and I'm going to let you guys know this is not the first time I review his robot mode. The first time I was brutally honest, rather scathing, and I don't think it gives this Magnus enough credit. However, I am going to show you there are 3 flaws. Some of them are just, in my personal opinion, they may not bother you. So don't get me wrong, I want to say this right off the bat, this Ultra Magnus is awesome. I love the vehicle mode. I actually like the robot mode more, even though that's where the issues appear. One of them is actually one of the cool things here. because you see his hands. They have the fingers that move all at once. His thumb is static. What's really cool is the range of motion that you get from Ultra Magnus is because of the click joints, the ratchets in the elbows. Now the bad thing is they click so hard that they, with his fingers being on pins, they loosen up and the guns drop out of his hands anytime you move the arms up or down from the elbows. I'll just demonstrate. And I mean, that happens with both of them regardless of which direction. See, he throws his guns. The fix for that is rather simple. You just hold the fist closed and then you can move the gun around wherever you want to. Okay, see, problem solved. Now, the second one is a little bit more, again, it's just something personal that I don't feel comfortable with, but it's, you know, again, it may not bother you guys, honestly. So what the deal with his legs is, and I'm going to make sure I get this on the camera, is you see this little slot. Well, there's a tab on his leg. This one, it goes into that slot. Well, there's an issue. Let's see if we can get it where you can see it in sunlight, or well, sunlight. It's this piece of plastic right here. This is all in one piece. It rotates backwards, but when it rotates, it goes to this right here. And as you can see, that plastic piece right there is pushing up against the plastic piece, so it will not let the plastic slide back. I mean, that's as far as it goes without putting stress on it. Well, the sad thing is to get Ultra Magnus's legs put together properly, you actually have to force that over that, and the legs will try to blow apart on you. So you have to slot it in there and push it in there and come around to the back and have that puppy right there. Okay. And sometimes the leg is blown apart on me after doing that even. Ooh. Okay, that did not sound good. And it did blow apart on me. And sometimes it won't hold. Honestly, it won't. Because there is such stress on it from that one little piece. That one little piece is what makes this leg want to just completely blow apart. I'm not comfortable with that, and right now it's trying to do it really badly. That is irritating. Anyway, so it looks like it is going to hold, and I just have to say, I think that was probably pretty poor oversight on Hasbro's part, that they designed it with such a big flaw. It is easily fixable though. That little plastic piece that I showed you can either be cut off or sanded down or something like that, basically where you don't have the friction of the leg trying to, you know, blow apart, because it's all just, you know, pressing against each other with so much pressure and stuff. But aside from that, even with that, the legs do have a lot of excellent motion. Now, I'm not going to go through and show you every motion because, you know, other reviewers like PA and stuff, they do that sort of stuff. And I encourage you to watch their review because they bring out a lot of good points too. I'm just going to lay it out there. He has a lot of good motion. I'm not going to deny that. He has a ton. And that's what makes this figure so great is I had the original Apex armor for G1 Magnus. Well, everything that I wanted it to do, it obviously couldn't. That's where this Magnus comes into play, is he has that range of motion. He can come into so many different cool poses. And I mean, like for instance, let's just, you know, put him in one random one here. Like I said, even with the leg problems, you can get him into some cool poses. So we just take that, put his gun in place, boom. I mean, that's awesome right there. I mean, if I had room on the shelf to display him like that, I probably would. And don't get me wrong, he's fun to mess with, and I'm not talking like playing around. If you have kids that play with him, then, you know, they'll probably have a blast with him. I'm just saying, as an adult collector, just the transformation is really fun on him. Like this, the amount of posability you get is pretty sweet. But there is one other thing I did want to cover, and again, this is probably one of the things that I have probably the most that I don't like. But it is, again, it's the half and half, because what they did with this Magnus was they gave you the option to either, you know, have this be the actual Magnus himself, or I guess there was a comic or something where Ultra Magnus died, and the character of Minimus Anubis, that Minicon I showed you earlier, basically created a mech suit in Magnus's image and pilots it around. Personally, I don't like the latter. I like this, using this as actually the real actual Ultra Magnus on a mech suit. But there is one cool thing about this feature, and I'm going to show it off. Is you pull that up, see the truck cab, pull it apart, and there you have Minimus Anubis in his commander chair. Now, ultimately, Minimus Anubis, I don't really care because, like I said, that storyline, just, I don't like the idea of it. But as far as Minimus Anubis himself, you know what, I mean, he's not a bad little robot. I love his futuristic car mode. He does have the Scourge-like facial hair, which I honestly don't know why Transformers have facial hair. It just kind of seems whatever. I don't care for it. Now, I do have to give credit because they molded the command chair in there, which is pretty cool looking. And you can see that there's display screens and controls and stuff on the inside of Magnus's chest. Now, the one reason I say this is good is because if you guys have the Matrix from MP1, you can go ahead and set it in the slot, like in the, 80 movie. And it will sit securely in there. Boom. And then, you have Magnus from the movie, which I think is really, really cool, honestly. Now, there is one feature that I do want to compare him with, and that's his Takara War for Cybertron self. Now, I'm unclear. I thought this was a Voyager class, and I could be wrong because I think he is the same size as the Combiner Wars Megatron, which I believe is a leader class. I could be wrong about that. If I am, and you guys know, please let me know in the comments. I'd appreciate it. I mean, that's the difference between that size class and Deluxe. You're going to get what you get, obviously. Now, there is one cool feature about Magnus that I did want to bring out. It seems that ever since, I believe, the animated iteration, whoa, that's not good. Send it, boy. They believe that Magnus needs to have a hammer. Well, they give you that feature because in the instructions they say take his guns and plug them into him. And they don't say that this is like a rifle or anything. This is only for hammer mode. So you turn that like that, and you take his rocket launchers from his shoulders, which form the ends of the hammer. And there you go. Now they say you can make Ultra Magnus look like Thor, whoever so wields this hammer. But the cool thing is, I kind of wish, one little nitpick, I wish he'd been able to hold the hammer somewhere else along here, but due to the design of the guns, you can't do that. Only place he can is right here. Well, if you notice on Magnus, his arm has this funky little place cut out of, or well, just, molded out of it. The reason is, where he holds it, this slides over that little cutout area, which is kind of cool. So it sits securely, unlike, when it's just the guns. And he holds it pretty well. I mean, don't get me wrong, I may have given this, crap about it being like Thor's hammer, but, I mean, for this Magnus, I mean, his design is bulky enough, it works, honestly. I mean, I may make fun of it, but I do like it, honestly. I mean, it's kind of cool to me, anyway. But if we're comparing Ultra Magnuses with hammers, let's go ahead and bring in Prime Ultra Magnus with the Forge. Yeah, I mean, it's cool. This is definitely his Voyager. So you can kind of see the size difference between all these guys. Flip down that deal behind his head. But, I mean, I don't mind it. All three of these guys nail the Magnus aesthetic wonderfully. So, but like I said, this Combiner Wars Ultra Magnus, yes, it does have its flaws, but I wouldn't, if I bought it over again, would I? Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, the good in this, it just outshines the bad because all the nitpicks I had with this are easily fixed. Very easily fixed. I mean, I gave you the solutions for those three problems. So, anyway, but aside from that, I mean, yeah, I love this figure, and that's not just buyer's remorse. This version of Ultra Magnus, if you're wondering, hey, should I buy it? If none of those things bother you, go for it. If they do, just keep in mind there is a fix for it, and it's super easy. I would buy it over again, like I said. So anyway, but that has been the review of Combiner Wars Ultra Magnus, and stay tuned for more reviews.